The Yeren, which is the Chinese word for wild man, is an ape-like creature reported to inhabit the remote, mountainous regions of China, most famously in the Shenan-Gojia Forestry District in the Hubei province. Sightings of the Yerens date back and have remained constant since the Warring States period, circa 340 BC, through the Tang Dynasty in 907 AD. The Yeren are described as savage, strong, and fast-moving creatures living in the mountain caves and descending only to raid villages for food or for people to eat or rape. Scientific interest in such ape men erupted in the 1950s and 60s in conjunction with the discoveries related to Bigfoot and the Yeti, but pressure by the Maoist government to leave behind these kinds of legends and folk stories repressed further interest in the Yeren until its dissolution in 1976. Afterwards, large expeditions were launched by the Chinese Academy of Sciences to investigate alleged eyewitness accounts, footprints, hairs, and bodies by Chinese scientists. And there has been over 300 recorded sightings of the Yeren since the 1920s. So does the Yeren really exist? Let's try and find out.
Hello, I'm Mike Droberg, a Marine Corps veteran and filmmaker, and we will try to answer these questions on today's episode of Forgotten History.
Stories of the Yeren and similar creatures have persisted for millennia in Chinese folklore. The oldest appearance of the Yeren in writing lies in the Nine Songs by Qu Yuan, who lived from 340 to 278 BC in the state of Chu during the Warring States period. His ninth song speaks of a mountain spirit, which was described as a human-like creature clad in a fig leaf. The accounts of the Yeren's wild nature were often portrayed as lustful, capturing and raping villagers, the latter especially if the victim was female. The same was said about the wild women or wild wives, where they would abduct and sling men over their backs, carrying up the mountain to do the nasty. I'm just not sure why they didn't just have hanky-panky with each other, but I digress. 1555, during the Qing Dynasty, its local newspaper published a story about a group of Yeren sheltering in nearby mountain caves. They preyed on the dogs and chickens of the local villagers. In rural Hubei, the Yeren were rumored to be the descendants of runaway laborers conscripted to build the Great Wall of China. Other newspapers, as well as Chinese natural history works, such as Li Shizin's 1578 Compendium of Materia Medica, frequently mention Yeren or similar ape men. Testimonies of the alleged creature typically agree that the Yeren walks upright and stands well over 6 feet tall, is covered in hair all over its body, especially along the scalp, and has a face reminiscent of both ape and human. Other common descriptors include black-red hair, distended eyes, and long arms hanging all the way down to its knees, and big feet. The Yeren supposedly laughs when coming across a human. During the Mao era, from 1949 to 1976, under Chairman Mao Zedong, fervent government campaigns aimed to squash superstitious beliefs and to quell debates surrounding the mysterious Yeren. Mao believed stories of the Yeren, ghosts, and spirits would impair productivity, such as by scaring farmers from tending to their fields. Mao was so concerned about these stories that circulating them were sometimes punishable offenses. Thus, scientific interest would quickly dwindle. In 1974, historian Li Jian recorded testimonies from the locals regarding the Yeren, the oldest occurring in 1945. His work soon attracted the attention of Liu Minzhuang, a professor at East China Normal University, as well as several scientists in 1976. As the Mao era ended on the downswing of the tumultuous Cultural Revolution, the taboo against superstitions diminished, and popular Western works regarding the Yeti and the similar North American Bigfoot were translated into Chinese. Coupled with Li's and Luo's work, and the increasing commercialization with the newly wrought publishing freedoms, interest of ape men surged as Yeren fever took hold. In subsequent years, Liu would become the most prominent worker on the Yeren, earning the nickname Professor of Yeren. In 1977, Zhu Weizing, along with military personnel, zoologists, biologists, and photographers, launched the Yeren expedition in Shenangjia on behalf of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. They collected footprints, hair samples, and even took pictures of the Yeren. Their findings were published in scientific journals, pop science magazines, and newspapers. One of their most prominent finds was a 1,000-footprint track stretching for about a mile. The team made plaster casts of the most prominent prints, which are more than 18 inches long and showed the largest of 5 toes splayed outward. Wang Guangzhou, an assistant professor of forensic medicine at the Wuhan Medical Institute, compared 8 alleged Yeren hairs under a microscope with the hairs of humans, apes, gorillas, goats, and pigs, and found them dissimilar. The texture is different from a bear or human, said Huang. The wild man is in the middle between bears or apes and human beings. Yeren hunts affected an unprecedented involvement of untrained laypeople and was by and large fueled by citizen science. In 1981, the China Wildman Research Society formed with the help of the famous Chinese paleoanthropologist Ji Lampo and offered a cash reward of 5,000 yuan for a Yeren body and 10,000 yuan for an alive Yeren. So far, no one has collected the reward, as far as we know. The majority of scientists work to prove these ape men were undiscovered early offshoots of humanity rather than supernatural entities, while a minority maintained they were misidentified ordinary animals. The most popular theory stated that the Yeren were descendants of Gigantopithecus, or an undiscovered Chinese variant of the African Paranthropus robustus. By the 1980s, whole books about the Yeren were being published, and a substantial collection of such literature has since amassed. Some Yeren hunters, generally men, dedicated their lives to the chase, sadly leaving their families behind. A news article surfaced in the 80s detailing the story of a woman who claimed to have been kidnapped by a Yeren. She spent 27 days in a cave with a Yeren in the Hubei province and was at some point impregnated by it. However, the offspring died at age 22, 20 years before the newspaper article was released, and purportedly, a later analysis of his bones supposedly showed characteristics of both man and ape. Another strange encounter that occurred around the same time was recounted by some hunters in the Rongjiang County of the Guizhou province. The hunters said they would warm their hands over a campfire when a Yeren emerged from the darkness to join them. The hunters said they were terrified and pretended to ignore it. As the fire waned, they said, the wild man collected more wood and threw it on the fire. In 1981, Lee received fundings by the Chinese Anthropological Society to found the Chinese Yeren Investigative Research Association. 4 of their expeditions that decade garnered audiences upwards of 400,000 people. In 1982, Chinese paleoanthropologist Zhu Juing discovered a 2,000-year-old lantern with an ornament apparently depicting a Yeren, which confirmed the ancient tradition surrounding the wild men. However, soon thereafter, as all expeditions had failed to turn up additional convincing evidence, scientific interest plummeted by the late 1980s. Except for the one hair sample, the alleged bodies, hairs, and footprints actually came from various known animals, including humans, Himalayan brown bears, Tibetan blue bears, Asian black bears, macaws, gorals, and seraos. The purported monkey boy skulls, supposedly evidence of the Yeren-human hybrid, actually belonged to fully human children who suffered spinocerebellar ataxia. Additionally, many eyewitness accounts were likely completely fabricated or embellished. Following the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests and massacre, the government began constricting private organizations and discouraged the ideas and observations of laypeoples in scientific matters. Concurring with this trend, in 1994, Lee's Yeren Association was absorbed by the China Association for Science and Technology and was renamed the Strange and Rare Animals Exploration and Investigation Committee. Alongside the giant panda, the Yeren was also used to spotlight environmental issues in China in the 1970s and 80s, specifically widespread deforestation, which many researchers were worried would lead to the extinction of the Yeren before it could be discovered. Yeren fever may have been at play, among other factors, in the establishment of the Shenangjia National Nature Reserve in 1983. Hubei capitalizes on the creature's infamy to attract tourists to its remote villages within the province. A statue depicting a female Yeren and her child exists within the nature preserve, serving as another popular tourist attraction. So is the Yeren real, or is it a myth? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
Let's say China. China.
China.
China.
China.
China.
China.
China.
China.
China.
China. You go over to China. 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 China.
Thank you for watching Forgotten History. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you have any comments or show ideas, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks again.